You guys, you ladies, mostly ladies, you people make my day. I can't tell you how I look forward to Monday nights to meet with you. I feel very supported, and it's particularly valuable to me because there was a time, and maybe you know this for those of you who've been using homeopathy for decades, there was a time when it was a very lonely place to live. Homeopathy was. I had a small study group, thank goodness. It was just a group of us who met every Thursday night. Was it? Now I forgot. Yes, every Thursday night for 4 years. We never missed a night. And they were very dear friends, and we worked hard together, and we studied, and we traveled to learn more. But the books were sparse. The remedies were sparse. It was hard to find medicines. There was no internet. It was back in the 80s. So there was no internet, and we were lucky to find a book. If someone went to Europe, they'd buy a couple of books for us and bring them back. It was that kind of copying the information. And so when you live through that, you find this medicine to be, and this information, so precious. The ability to learn 2 or 3 concepts was such a big deal to us. So, there may have been other groups that we just weren't aware of. We did join the National Center for Homeopathy study group at the time, but it was sparse. And we had small children. We didn't travel much. We did a little travel, but not much. So it's to have a whole community like this with people who I know in my mighties and people who I see on Facebook Live. It's so wonderful. Here's Martha from Canada again, and again, Carmen from Ontario, upstate South Carolina. Great state, that South Carolina. You bet. Very good. Winnipeg. Oh, I love all the Canadians. It's really great. I can't wait to get back to Canada. You bet. Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm a mighty on Facebook, Linda. Wonderful to see you. Bel Air Beach, Florida. It's great. I know. If I could show you all my hearts, I would do the same thing. I feel the same way about all of you folks. So we're veering away from my Materia Medica. This is what we normally do on Monday nights. We go to Materia Medica and we go through it all, but we're going to do something a little different because we're getting into colds and flu season. And I think it's important that you be completely prepared. Many of you already know what I'm going to tell you. I've even talked about it here on Facebook, but you can never be reminded too many times because this is not out in the world. You don't see this on television or listen to it on the radio, or you don't go to find this in magazines or newspapers. You're not going to find this on CNN or CSNBC or ABC or NBC or CBS or shall I continue, or New York Times. You're not going to find it in those places. You're going to find it here. And that is where I get most of my information, is online. As I've said before, my salutation often is kill your television, because the information that we're getting from electronic media and from and print media that is directed to society in general is very, very skewed at best. I don't have to tell you this. That's why you're here. You're already with me on this. So I want to give you stuff that is a reminder. And for those who are new, it'll be something new for you. So we're going to be talking about colds and flus and viruses in general, because to be honest, these will work for most colds and flus. And you don't have to identify them as a specific virus. You know what a virus is. You know how a flu acts. A cold is uncomfortable. A flu is a killer. I mean, it really just throws you in the bed. You barely can even move off the sofa without it becoming a problem. So it's when we're trying to decide, do I have a cold or do I have a flu? A cold is sniffly, sneezy. You can still function. You can still carry on your daily tasks. A flu is, everyone leave me alone. I am so sick. I can barely function. So you're not pushing through when it comes to a cold. You're down and out. So, but I like people to keep some of these medicines in their for moms, keep it in your purse or your diaper bag or briefcase. Of course, nobody does that anymore. We're all home now, pretty much. But wherever you go, if you keep whatever you carry with you, if you have this with you, then you're protected. So I'm opening this up because it's Cold Calm. It's made by Boron. I love this medicine. I had not used it when my kids were young. I actually learned about this from clients through the years. It's made by Boron. You can see Boron down here across the bottom. And it's called Cold Calm, and it's a combination of medicines. And as I always say, that when you use a combination medicine, I don't like all of them. Let me say parenthetically, I'm not wild about all combination medicines. I like Boron. I like Highlands. I like OHM. If you happen to be a client or a student of mine, you can buy from them. I like Washington Homeopathy. These are all American. I like Hahnemann Pharmacy in San Francisco. And I like Helios in England. Now, it doesn't mean there are others that are not good, but I like the ones that don't have 25 medicines. I like just a few of them. Now, this one does have, let's see, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 medicines. That's a lot. That's a lot for Boron. And here are the ingredients on the back. And the reason I want you to know about these, you can see them there. You don't have to read them, but you can read them online, certainly. And the reason I want you to look at that is because for 2 reasons. One is because when we use a medicine that works, we want to know why. It's important to be able to identify what the medicine was that worked when it's a combination medicine. It's not mandatory, but it's useful. So let's start with this. You've got this little packet. It comes with these little pills like this. And you've got these. It says Cold Calm on the back, so you're not lost if you keep them in your purse. And you take a couple of pills, pop them in your mouth at the first sign of a cold. Now, how do you know if it's going to be a cold or a flu? You don't really know. Generally speaking, you don't know what you're about to get. All you know is that you're getting something. And it's for sneezing, runny nose, nasal congestion, sore throat. They say minor sore throat, but I believe it is sore throat in general. And you pop that in your mouth and you take it. I would take it every 15 minutes. Now, the directions read adults and children. Well, let's see. At the onset of symptoms, dissolve 2 tablets under the tongue every 15 minutes. Does it say 10? Yeah, every 15 minutes for 1 hour. So you're going to take 4 doses within the first hour. And then after that, you can take it every couple of hours. You may not need to do it. And what do you do when you feel better after you've taken something like this? You stop, right? You just don't take it. If it comes back again 3 hours later, you take it again. So now you're looking for that tipping point. At what point do we know that we're feeling better? When we notice that we're improving, then we go ahead and stop. And when we feel that we need it, then we resume its use again. This can be taken for days if needed. But if you don't see any improvement after a day or so, I think I would abandon it. We're not looking for perfection, folks. We're looking for improvement. Okay? I think everyone should own this. Now, there are other companies that manufacture similar products. OHM is a similar product. They all have these similar products. I'm showing you the one that Boron manufactures. And this works so frequently. People are saying in Mighty Members, I love Cold Calm. I make sure I have it on hand at all times. Absolutely. Corsalia is the Canadian name for it. Now, isn't that interesting? I had no idea. Boron is in Canada, and sometimes they do have different names, but thank you for saying that. So this is a great one. Now, here's another one. This is also a combination medicine. Listen, by the way, I'm not getting paid by Boron to tell you this. It's just that they send me a lot of these medicines, and I use them. This one is Oscillococcinum. This is I am told it is the top over-the-counter medication including conventional drugs in France. Boron is a French company. They happen also to manufacture in the US, but they are originally a French company. And so it comes in these little vials. And I'm sure you know about this. I'm sure many of you know about it. But I want you to be reminded if you need to be reminded. And I want you to know if you didn't know. So you get a little bottle, and their directions are that you take the entire bottle. And normally I follow the directions of pharmacies. homeopathic pharmacies. But I have to tell you that it's been a few times that I've taken, a third of a bottle and it still acts. It still works for me. Now, not for everyone. Here's the thing. Whenever you change the rules in using homeopathy in terms of how many pills you're going to use, you are taking a chance that it may not work. So if it's really important that this medicine act, take the whole vial. Just do it. Take the whole vial. Don't even give it a thought. If it's not so important, you're going to be home anyway. Okay, I get it. Then don't bother. Then take a third or a half. But if you really want to be certain, anytime you're using a homeopathic medicine and it tells you to take 4 to 6 pills, do what it says if it matters enough. And again, you're going to take this frequently, and the directions are on the back. There is only one ingredient in this, and it is it's actually made from the waterfowl, a duck that lives on the water, and it's made from, it doesn't tell us this, but it's made, as I recall, the heart and the lungs of a specific kind of duck that lives on the water. Now, what I like about this is that this is great for when, and this is how you remember it, for when the weather gets wet, just like a duck in the water, and cold. So it's not so much in dry season, although it can be useful. I actually find it to be more useful in wet, cold weather. This is great for flu. This is great for cold. But as I said, how do you know what you've got until you start, until you really get into it? So if you can take it at the onset, you can most likely abort that. Okay. Excuse me. That's 2. The third one is one that I learned from the Banerjees, and this is a combination medicine, not pre-made. You have to make it yourself, essentially. You just have to mix them together. And I've written about this. I've written about all of these on my blog. That I don't. At first, I thought maybe I'm cheating a little bit. I'm not giving you anything fresh, but I really think that people need to know how to use these and be reminded. So I think it's worth repeating. The first one is Aconitum nipalis. Here it is. This is a boron tube. Aconitum nipalis. I happen to grab the 30, but that's not the potency. It should be Aconitum nipalis 200. Aconitum nipalis 200, or just aconite. It is a great medicine, especially for quick onset. In other words, you feel fine all day long, and then bam, comes that cold, flu, sore throat, achy, whatever might be coming on, cough, chestiness, sinuses, etc. And we take that along with Bryonia 30. So we take these two, we put them together. So how do we put them together? We don't put them together like this. What we do is we open one, twist the top, turn it upside down, find the remedies in there. There are 4 in there. See how there are 4? I'll turn it a little bit. Okay. Put it in your mouth. I'm actually going to take it. I keep it in there. Then I take my Bryonia, twist it. There are some in here. I think there are 3 this time. 3 or 4 is fine. And I put them in my mouth simultaneously. We are given directions to keep these medicines under our tongue. But to be honest, how do you do that? How do you convince a 2-year-old to do this? Or how do you convince a stubborn 17-year-old to do this? So they end up chewing them. And they work just as well. When I give remedies to Buster, not for cold and flu, because I don't know of any colds or flus that dogs get, but when I give them to Buster, he simply chews them. And you can hear them crunching away. So I'm holding them in my mouth because I don't want you to hear me crunching, because I think that would be rude. But you keep it in the mouth, and I would take that. Could be taken every 3 hours, every 6 hours, depending on how severe it is. I would keep these. Let's put it down closer to the camera. In my purse during cold season, if I was concerned, I would take a packet of these, not the whole box, but a packet. And I would take, so it would look like the pilules like I showed you. I'll put these in my purse. And I might put 1 or 2 of these little vials in my purse. Now, I'm not telling you that you should do this. I'm telling you that if you have a concern about it, then by all means, because I don't want people to worry. A big part of my focus is I want folks to feel so comfortable with homeopathy that it relieves them of the fear and panic of illness. That's where I want you to get. That's where I want you to go to in this journey. That's one of the benefits that is often is unnoticed with a beginner. They don't recognize until they've learned more and used it more frequently that homeopathy is valuable, is not only in curing your and your family's ills, or at least abating them depending on the severity or depending on your ability, but also it's valuable because it keeps you from worrying. I simply don't worry. I didn't worry about the China flu, the China virus. I don't worry about colds and flus in general. When I went to India, I didn't worry that I was going to be exposed to leprosy and tuberculosis. I just didn't worry about it because I know that homeopathy, I have it under my belt and I feel protected. And I got very sick every time I went to India to work with the Banerjees. Every single time I went 8 years, every time I got very sick. But it mattered not because I got past it. Amoebic dysentery, I had whooping cough. I've had all of those, not all, but many diseases while working there. And I knew that I could get past it. Okay. All right, here let's take a look at Facebook. I love cold calm, says Alice. I want to share your post to my next door homeopathic group, but it won't allow me to embed it. I don't know why that would be. Goodness sakes. Let's see. Nathalie, can you help this person? This is, let's see. This is Francine. Natalie, if you're there, if you could help her out a little bit, that would be great. Okay, the other day I took the first few doses of cold calm after experiencing runny nose and some sneezing. After looking at the box for the ingredients, I thought my symptoms were best addressed by allium cepa. So I then took 1 dose of allium cepa, 30C. About 30 minutes later, my nose started dripping, clear discharge, almost poured out, whereas previously it was minor. Was this an aggravation? No, it was not an aggravation. It was likely approving. An aggravation means things got worse before they got better. Now, generally speaking, we don't see aggravations for acutes. We see either it's the right remedy or it's the wrong remedy. Now, if you tell me that 2 hours later, all the dripping and everything that occurred was much improved, and you continue taking the medicine and then you were much better, then I would say maybe it was a little aggravation. But we should not see someone getting worse before they get better, especially when it comes to an acute. Listen, here's the thing. I would go back to cold calm because it looked like that was what was helping in the first place. Okay. And let's see. I recently had a cold that Aconite and Bryonia didn't help as it usually does for me. I ended up treating with Phytolacca 30. 200 didn't work because of one nostril running in the posterior nares. I'm assuming that it did help you. Okay, I'm going to go back to my mighties. Looks like Queen Elizabeth and her family didn't worry either. I'm assuming that has to do with the fact that the royal family uses homeopathy. More than one royal family. I'm talking about the British, but more than one. Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. Thank you very much for saying that, Christy. Christy Quarter says 1 box will last for years. Yeah, it really will last a very long time, no matter the cost, because it'll last for really. I've had these medicines for a long time, and I own Oscillococcinum vials that I probably 10 years old, and I still use them. All right, how about influenzinum? I used to talk about influenzinum, and I used to find it to be very useful. But the problem with influenzinum is there are a couple of problems. Number one, we don't know it's the flu until we get sick enough to find out. Now, I don't like to wait that long. So instead, I would use one of these or one of the Bryonia and Aconite and Bryonia. So I don't want to wait that long to get it. That's the first thing. The second thing that I don't like about influenzinum is that it's a pot shot. We really don't know if it would be that strain of influenza for that particular. And someone who says they have a cold right now. So which one would they take? What I would do is go online and look. If you've got them both, then I would just read the back and differentiate. If it's certain that it's a cold and it's not wet, cold weather, then it would be a little bit more towards the cold calm. But I would look it up, read up on it a little bit. Good idea for you to feel good about that. Okay, works like a charm. Used it after caught my cold after a flight. Very good. Oscillococcinum by boron. Okay, here we go. But boron has 200 CK. Is that the same as C? CK is not exactly the same, but it's close enough. So it's just, K stands for Korsakoff, and C stands for centesimal. So it's just a method that the pharmacy is using that's just slightly different in their manufacturing process, but I consider them interchangeable. All right, somebody from Alberta, Canada, love it. All right, let's see if I can get some of these to come down here and I can read them. And while they're loading up, Oscillococcinum works for me every time, and I only take 1/4 at a time. I alternate with Corsalia. Thank you very much. Yes, that's cold calm, as said earlier. That apparently it's called that Corsalia in Canada. All right, and I thought it was from the duck liver. I believe it could be duck heart and liver. Did I say brain? I think it's duck heart and liver. Yes, I think you're right about that. Are these safe for pregnancy? My daughter-in-law is pregnant. Well, I'm never going to say this is safe for pregnancy, but let me tell you, I've used all of these during my pregnancies, and I had very good pregnancies. So I'm not going to tell you that something is safe because everyone is different. Homeopathy is relatively safe. That's the way I want you to look at it. All right. It can be Aconite and Bryonia 200. I actually taught it as Aconite 200 and Bryonia 200 because when I was in India the first time, that's what I observed the senior doctors using a few times. So I went back to the US, reported that I'd seen it used as Aconite 200 and Bryonia 200. And the next year I went back and Prateep Batterjee said, no, Joette, you're wrong. It's Aconite 200 with Bryonia 30. So interesting. I've seen that it worked as with 200, but I am not going to change a Banerjee protocol. If I did it because I observed it there, then I'll accept that I've said that, but I'm not going to change it and tell you, okay, just use the 200. Anytime the Banerjees have taught me a specific protocol, if I get it right, I'm going to follow. I'm going to do exactly as they say for that, protocol, because I oversee about 50 cases per day. Each one of their doctors see 100 cases per day, and they've been doing it for many, many decades. I've only been using homeopathy for 3 decades, a little bit more than that, but I can't compare in clinical experience. Okay, let's see. Somebody just said, and it just jumped, I used it, Aconite 200 and Bryonia 200, and it didn't work until I switched back to Bryonia 30C. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. But I've had others report that it has worked. My guess is the reason it has worked is because Aconitum is so great for forthcoming cold or cough, etc. And it overrode the fact that the Bryonia was the wrong potency. All righty, let's see what else we've got. Yes, duck liver is what I thought too. I had no problem getting on. Let's see. April says, if your son has a 106 temperature and belladonna 200 brought it down to 102 to 103 for a bit, but it's back up to 105, would you go to belladonna 1 No, I would not do that. I would not do that. I would use what worked. And that's the reason I would think that way. When you use a medicine and it acts, and then it stops acting because you stopped administering it for a short period of time, I would go back to the medicine that acted and allow it to finish its job. Okay, that's the beauty of homeopathy. No longer have fear. Yes, you bet. You bet. And let's see, I sometimes put them in water bottle. Am I still getting full benefit? Yes, I think you can get full benefit in a water bottle. In general, that's not a bad practice. But I always tell folks the same thing with the number of pills you're taking. If you're going to play with it a little bit, you're going to play pharmacy essentially. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but if you're going to play pharmacist, then it better be for a good reason, in that you're running out and that's all you've got. And you need to give it to many members of the family, number one. Number two, the other good reason could be if the person's not that sick and it's not a big deal. So if it doesn't act, no problem. And you've still got more time because the person is not suffering horribly. But if someone is suffering horribly, then it would behoove you to use exactly the way the pharmacy describes it or directs it on the back of the box. I use this as an example. Let's say in the morning your husband says, you know, honey, I really have a taste for cupcakes or cake or something. Would you be so inclined to make a cake tonight for after dinner? And you've made so many cakes in your life that you say, sure, it's going to be just the two of us. We'll have a little treat tonight. And you get out the flour and you sift it and you get out 2.5 cups, and you mix it together with the salt and the baking powder. And if you're using sugar, you put sugar in there. And then you mix it all together, and then you get the butter and you get the eggs and you mix that all together, and then you mix them and you throw it in the oven. What's the temperature? Oh, I don't know, 325. You oil the pan a little bit. Should I put flour? Oh, forget it. I'm not going to put the flour on top of the butter and type in the pan. I'm just going to throw it in there, and you just throw it in because you've made so many cakes that it's not important that it be absolutely perfect, because it's just going to be a little treat for that night. On the other hand, your daughter knows that you make good cakes. And she's got a wedding coming up. And she says, Mom, would you make the wedding cake? Do you think you're going to kind of wing it in that situation? You're going to measure perfectly. You're going to sift it perfectly. You're going to remember that the sugar actually goes with the butter instead of with the flour. You're going to remember that the dry ingredients stay together. The baking powder and the salt stay together. But the sugar, if it's dry, goes with the butter. And you're going to look at the temperature, and you're going to butter the pan. And then you're going to put flour on it, and you're going to shake it down. So everything is going to be perfect because it's more important. That's the way I want you to think when you ask questions about, should I use only one pill? Can I use only a portion of the vial? Can I put this in water? Absolutely. But if it's really important, by all means, follow the directions more closely. Okay. The China flu, the China virus. Well, I shouldn't have said flu. I meant China virus. All righty. I'm not telling you what it is. I do not want to be taken off this forum. Okay. Davis, good place to start to bulk up for cold and flu season. Okay. Hello from Buffalo. Hi, Mary from Buffalo, New York. I've dosed several times, so that's why I'm wondering if I just keep dosing repeatedly or move up. No, if a medicine doesn't act, if one of these medicines don't act, I would not go to the higher potency. I would go to a different medicine. Now, that is the method that's taught in classical, but generally speaking, I don't use that any longer. I go to I look at what's occurring now, anything new that's different. Now with the fever, does he also have, for example, nausea or vomiting or diarrhea? Now we look for a medicine that has a lower fever because it's not as high, and a vomiting and diarrhea, for example. All righty. Let's see what we've got here with my mighties. How neat that was. I was watching a Chinese drama on Netflix taken in the early 1600s, and the herbalist physician had his assistant grab some aconite and ginger to treat someone who had fever and stagnant blood circulation. I thought of you, Joette. Thank you, Alice, for thinking of me. Was reading Little Women, and they mentioned arnica. They also mentioned belladonna in Little Women. She mentions it, the author of Little Women. It'll come to me in a minute. Somebody's going to come up with it for me. I'm going to dash off, though. She mentioned the different brands. Is that what you were referring to? Yep. Just read through these. A lot of the information that you're looking for is is right here, and you'll be able to read it later. For Thuya 30 as a prophylactic for COVID, is possible to have heartbeat faster as a side effect. Yes, absolutely. If someone gets a side effect or an issue from taking a medicine, stop. Don't use it anymore. It's unnecessary. And then you can possibly resume taking it at a later date. And with that, mighties, I'm going to dash off. I've got to teach a class. God bless all of you. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you. And I will see you next week, and we'll be back to the Materia Medica. God bless. Take care. Bye now.